All right, so this is a statement from Johnny Herbert, one of the stewards at Austria. I'm going to read this out to you guys because this is really important, and it, I guess, puts this into more context, I guess, in terms of, I think Max does race kind of dirty, like, in terms of him actually getting challenged. Like, we saw this in 21 with him and Lewis, like, the battles between the two of them, and there's a lot of questionable calls either way. You could argue both ways. I completely get that. I'm not saying that. I'm not discrediting that, but either way. So what he ended up saying is, explains his make of the incident and thinks Max's move that he made on Lando was more deliberate. He said, it was Max's fault. He's a hard racer. He's very hard to beat. He intimidates everyone. That intimidation is something that Lewis, Senna, Michael had, and they've always done it. And that's true. When you watch them race, it's like, you know they're coming and you're trying to pass them. You know passing them is going to be different than trying to get around just anybody else. And then when you come up against Max as he's driving today, there's a point if you're Lando that you have to say, if he's trying to pass him, you just hold your line and you stay there. Because otherwise Max is going to try to squeeze you off circuit, and if you don't move, he's going to hit you. So that's kind of what you have to do. You kind of have to stand your ground. And like Lando did the right thing. He didn't move. He didn't have to move. Some people said he could have moved, but yeah, he could have moved, but that's not how you're going to end up beating Max or win the Grand Prix, because otherwise if he's just going to push you off of the track, if you move, like, you're going to put yourself in a worse position, and you kind of just have to hope he doesn't hit you, which is the truth. And then Max's move was more deliberate. It's like why he uses the word intimidation is because it's intimidating people, because he's like, oh crap, is he going to hit me? Is he going to turn into me? And then he said, I like the competition because I think it's a very important part of racing, but I sometimes don't like it when he gets to the point when you are actually forcing a car off the circuit to win. It's about placing the car where you want it. And honestly, Max places the car very well, but he has a tendency to put it in a position that goes beyond the driver's unwritten code, which a lot of people were saying the moving, like, especially with the moving under braking, that was a rule that got put in place for Max, and people are saying they're not enforcing it. So there's that argument, and I get it, but like, you want to see them race, but you want the steward calls to be consistent. One, like in any sport, you want consistency across the board. Across the whole sport of a season, you want consistency. Obviously, in like football and basketball, things change when it comes to the playoffs. But in F1, there is no playoffs. Every single race is the playoffs. So the way I look at it is every race should be officiated. You need to be consistent. Like, if you're going to, challenge and say moving under braking isn't okay, it needs to be reprimanded and put away the same way every single time. And it shouldn't matter what the outcome was. Is sometimes you do it and it's fine. There's no incident. There's nothing. And then you don't get a penalty. But if there is an incident, you get a penalty. You just shouldn't do it. And it should be penalized the same way every single time. That's what you need in any sport. You need a consistent set of rules. And it's one of those things is, if there's a problem, we can't get the ruling 2 hours after the race happens. We need it 2 laps after it happens. Because if you're waiting, that can change the outcome of how someone's going to perform. Like, if you have a 5-second penalty, you got to push harder those last 10 laps of the race, depending on where you're at in the race. You might have to change strategies if you have a penalty, this, that, and everything else, because it could change how you're going to perform and what the actions you're going to take to try to reverse that penalty you got. But if it just comes after the race, you're like, oh crap, otherwise we would have done this, this, and that, especially when it's something, it's not in your control, but you'd have a chance to at least change it. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. It's definitely interesting.